Hey guys, this is a video response to ballinnick1982. He had a video, he just did a video, his top 10 favorite horror movies. So I thought I'd share mine. I haven't done any movie-related videos on my channel yet, so this is the first one. I'm probably not going to do these too often, but movies are probably my next big passion after video games. I love movies. Horror movies, I definitely have enough, I like enough of them to make a top 10 list. Horror isn't exactly my favorite genre, though. I haven't seen a whole lot of horror movies. There's still quite a bit I haven't seen. And there's a lot of low-budget and direct-to-DVD type horror movies I haven't seen. I tend to not watch the really gory horror movies like the trauma films. I've never seen any of those. So none of those are going to be on this list. But I thought I'd start with some honorable mentions. It was really hard actually making this top 10 list. A lot harder than I was expecting. So honorable mentions, right off the bat, we have Event Horizon. That's a great sci-fi horror movie, really underrated too. It gets a bit crappy towards the end, but it's got a really nice sense of atmosphere. The Silence of the Lambs is a classic movie. I love it. Yet it still didn't quite make the list. Alien is one of my favorite movies of all time. Yet it still didn't quite make the list. Another one is The Ring, which I know a lot of people hated that movie. I really liked The Ring. I thought it was a great mystery movie. I loved the mystery, how she kind of was figuring out a mystery of where the tape originated from. Like that, I thought that was really neat. Final Destination, the first one, I love that. The concept of that movie is great. Of course, it led to all these sequels, but those are just really enjoyable movies. Saw, I really like the original Saw. The rest of them are shit, but the first Saw movie, I love it. I think it's amazing with a really great plot twist. But yeah, those are all honorable mentions. I'll get into the list with number 10. Number 10 is actually a pretty recent movie, The Cabin in the Woods. Those of you that haven't seen this movie, I'll just say right now, go and watch this movie. Something, I guess, with regards to movies, I really tend to not like a lot of the movies that come out these days. I don't know. I just much prefer movies that were released in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. So when I watched Cabin in the Woods, I really wasn't expecting much. I knew going in that it was supposed to be a really crazy movie, but it was such a refreshing movie. Again, I don't want to talk too much about it because I would really not want to spoil this movie for people that haven't seen it because it's absolutely incredible. Just a nice breath of fresh air and one of the most memorable movies in the past few years for me. Just a phenomenal movie. Definitely check out Cabin in the Woods. A really fantastic horror movie. At number 9, we have Stanley Kubrick's masterpiece, The Shining. Stanley Kubrick, man, he had so many great movies and he did so many great genre movies. His war movie, Full Metal Jacket's one of the best war movies ever. Eyes Wide Shut, I find, is one of the best romance movies. And The Shining is one of the best horror movies ever made. A really creepy setting, very tense and just dreadful atmosphere. The atmosphere is what makes this movie so frightening. It is maybe a bit overlong, but I love pretty much every second of it, and it's a true masterpiece. If anyone hasn't seen The Shining, although I'm sure most of you have, definitely go see it. It was on Ballinnick's honorable mentions. It did I like it quite a bit, so it did make my list at number 9. At number 8, we have Cannibal Holocaust. I don't know how many people know of this movie. It was a very controversial movie upon release. It's known for its incredibly realistic violence and the fact that it's banned in a bunch of countries, and the director was actually arrested because he was accused of making a snuff film. People actually thought the actors were actually killed on camera, so that just goes to show you how realistic the violence is in this movie. It's basically about the documentary film crew goes to this island where apparently cannibals, a cannibalistic tribe is located, and they go missing. So this other group goes out to try to find them. They recover a camera, and they bring it back. And then the second half of the movie is actually a found footage movie. And this was in 1980, I think. So this movie is really ahead of its time. Of course, it's a very graphic, very disturbing movie. If you have a weak stomach or you can't stand a lot of gore, I'd say definitely stay away from this. But those who do watch it know that it's an incredibly disturbing and horrific movie. It's very hard to watch. It's also known for having animals actually killed on screen. Like, the actors weren't, of course, but the animals in the movie were actually killed, which is pretty sick. If you get the DVD I have at least, you can turn that stuff off, so you don't actually have to watch that. The director really was kind of messed up, actually, upon making this movie. There's just a really cool history to this movie too. I definitely recommend looking up Cannibal Holocaust and seeing just what it's about. But yeah, definitely one of my favorite horror movies, because it is actually, there's it. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's an enjoyable movie, but it works well as a horror movie in the sense that it is horrific and it's really a disturbing movie. And it's 8 on my list. At number 7 is a very underrated Canadian film by the name of Cube. It had 2 sequels. I've never seen them. I've heard they're not very good. But the first movie, Cube, is really a well-done, unique movie. Basically, a group of people wake up to find themselves in this cube. And it's like a bunch of different rooms. I don't want to spoil too much about the movie. It's definitely something you have to see for yourself. But the horror from the movie doesn't really come from monsters or anything like that. It comes from really the humans themselves, which you'll know what I mean if you've seen the movie. Really just a fascinating movie. It plays out like a mystery movie too, which is really cool. It can be similar to the movie Saw, I feel, but this came out way before that, so just a really unique horror film, one of my favorites. I always come back to it every couple of years or so. Phenomenal movie. Definitely check it out if you've never heard of it. At number 6, we have a movie that I'm sure is on a lot of people's personal favorite horror movies, and that's The Blair Witch Project. Just really, the horrific or scary thing about this movie is what they don't show. Obviously most people have seen this movie. Just a really, even though it takes place in a forest, it's very claustrophobic due to the found footage type camera style that the movie has. Of course, it was ahead of its time when it came out with the whole marketing gimmick and just the fact that it's a damn scary movie. And of course, that ending, I don't want to spoil the ending for people that haven't seen it, but the ending is definitely one of my favorite endings to any movie ever. It's just absolutely fantastic. I really liked, too, how a lot of people complain about the characters and the dialogue. I mean, the dialogue is pretty much just swear words, but realistically, that's what it would be. The dialogue would be just a bunch of swearing when you know like the situation that these characters are in. Yeah, Blair Witch Project, overall, just a really fantastic movie. I know a lot of people may like Paranormal Activity better in terms of, because they're similar in style, kind of. I actually hate Paranormal Activity. I can't stand it. I think it's mainly due to the whole, I don't know, I feel like they show too much in that movie, and it's the characters I don't like in that movie. I just don't find it a scary movie. But enough about that. Blair Witch Project, great movie, number 6. At number 5 is From Dusk Till Dawn. This movie is absolutely insane. I'm not going to spoil it because I'm sure maybe some people haven't seen it. I can't even really go into details about it at all, other than I'll just say it's a really crazy, over-the-top horror movie with great dialogue. George Clooney in this movie is just fucking awesome. I don't know, his character is just amazing. Quentin Tarantino plays this really creepy character. He's fantastic in it. But yeah, From Dusk Till Dawn, not going to say too much about it, just that it's easily one of my favorite horror movies of all time. It's brilliant. Number 4, here's where we get into my top 4 are movies I would consider like some of my favorite movies of all time. Like, they're the kind of movies I'll show to anyone that hasn't seen them when they're over at my house. The kind of movies I watch at least once a year. They're that good. So from here on forward, the rest of the movies, these top 4 are movies I consider to be just absolute masterworks. Anyways, at number 4 is The Fly. My favorite David Cronenberg film. Just absolutely amazing. It's known for its horrific special effects, and rightfully so. And I think that's where the horror of this movie comes from. Just seeing the transformation of his character, Jeff Goldblum's character. It's actually also a very tragic love story. Of course, it's also got these really cool sci-fi elements to it. I mean, this movie's got it all. Just a fascinating movie from start to finish. I like it better than the original. Of course, this is a remake. I can't say enough about this movie. I love it to death. And if anyone hasn't seen The Fly, definitely check it out. One of my favorite movies from the 80s. Just excellent. At number 3 is a movie I feel is one of the most underrated movies of all time. It kind of came out and then entered theaters, left theaters, released on DVD, and no one really talked about it. And it's such a shame because I think the movie is absolutely fantastic. And that's Frank Darabont's The Mist. Of course, he's known for Shawshank Redemption, The Green Mile, some of my favorite movies of all time. And this is right up there with them. The thing I love about this movie is, it's a typical kind of monster movie based on a Stephen King novel. But it's more about humans and what they're driven to do, like the extreme measures they'll take to when they're, isolated with each other and are fighting for their safety. It's really quite something. Of course, it's also known for an absolutely amazing ending. I don't want to spoil it, but it's one of my favorite movie endings of all time. It's terrific. A story I have with this movie is when I first saw it in the theaters. I'm not a big movie guy. I prefer watching my movies at home, so I don't go to the theaters too much, but this is by far my most memorable theater experience. When a certain character died in the movie, the entire audience, and this was a packed theater, stood up and applauded. It was one of the best moments I've ever had in a theater. It was absolutely insane. I love this movie so much. I can't gush over it enough. The characters are all extremely well written. The movie's not over reliant on special effects or anything like that. The DVD actually has a cool black and white mode where you can watch it in black and white, and it's terrific in black and white. I love that. If you haven't seen The Mist, please go watch it. It truly is one of the best horror movies I've ever seen. Certainly the best horror movie to come out of that decade, in my opinion, 2000 to 2010. Terrific movie. The Mist. Absolutely amazing. At number 2 is Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. Now, this movie. This is actually a movie I probably don't want to see again. I've seen it twice. First time was when I was about 9 or 10 years old. It's the only movie I've ever seen, and I saw quite a few horror movies back then. I mean, really graphic stuff. But Henry was the only movie to actually make me have nightmares. I saw it recently again a few years ago, and it's probably the only movie to ever actually disturb me and make me feel unclean after watching it. Which I feel a horror movie, a horror movie should kind of make you feel make you feel not right. That way I feel it kind of succeeds, and Henry definitely succeeds in that regard. I mean, the thing about this movie, the horrific thing about it, there's no monsters, there's no aliens or anything like that. It's about a serial killer. It's a very, the violence in it is incredibly graphic and extremely realistic. There's one scene in the movie that is just awful. It just makes me sick even thinking about it. Michael Rooker, he plays this character. He's absolutely amazing in the role. Very, very scary. But yeah, the scary thing about this movie is the fact that it can happen and it has happened. I mean, serial killers are out there, and the kind of stuff they show in this movie, it's not fake. It's real stuff, and it's the only movie to actually genuinely scare me. So in that regards, it's definitely one of the best horror movies I think ever made. But yeah, a movie that I probably don't want to see again. But yeah, number 2 on my list, Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. And finally, at number 1 is John Carpenter's The Thing, which actually, Ballinnick, it was his favorite horror movie as well, which is pretty funny. yeah, what can I say about The Thing? The first time I saw this movie was when I was about 7 or 8 years old on VHS, and it stuck with me. It really stuck with me. The amount of memorable scenes in this movie, I didn't really understand a lot of it at the time. I just remembered it being really, really a pretty scary movie, and a lot of really disgusting, gory scenes, some really great special effects, and a fantastic setting. Uh, I came to watch, I watched it years later on DVD, and since then I've seen it probably over 20 times. I watch it a couple times per year, especially around this time. Uh, just a really phenomenal movie. The great thing about it is the characters. All the characters are just so interesting. They all have their own personalities. There's some amazing jump scares in this movie. But what this movie does best is pacing, atmosphere, and pacing. The tension in this movie is just insane. It's just slowly ratchets up and up and up and up, and by the end, you're just on the edge of your seat. It's ridiculous. It's really also got a fantastic story. It plays out kind of like, you're always kind of thinking, what character could be the Thing? Is this character trustworthy? Is this character... all the characters in the movie start going after each other because they're not sure which one of them is the Thing or not. So it's really great character study, too. The special effects, like I mentioned earlier, are phenomenal. They still hold up amazing to this day. Way better than the fucking CGI we have these days. The gore is just over the top and amazing. It's just a really phenomenal movie. One of my favorite movies of all time. Everything about it, I just love. It's perfect. And those are my top favorite horror movies. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys later.